one more party now, one more party tonight.
Hi everyone, and welcome to part 8 of the Tuscan House, and we're nearing completion now. We've virtually done all the blocking in and all the backgrounds, and what I intend to do today is to address the pathway at the bottom, and to give the bougainvillea that we've painted in some more leaves. I think they're beginning, certainly on my painting anyway, they're beginning to look at the state of this. This is ridiculous. On my painting, they're a bit flowery and not enough leafy. So I think we'll reinstate some of the leaves that we had in here and we painted over with flowers. I like the amount of flowers we've got, but we need to balance it up a little bit, even although on our actual picture there's many more flowers than leaves. I just think for the overall look of the thing it would look better with a bit more greenery in it. And as I say, the other thing that we're going to really address today is this the pathway down the bottom. Now, if you have a look on your reference photograph, you'll see that it kind of looks like crazy paving. I'm not sure if that translates to America. In the UK, we have a thing called crazy paving, where bits of sort of broken slabs of stone or concrete or whatever are matched and mismatched together, and then concrete's put around it, so you get a pathway very much like this, actually. So I think I was going to leave it as we have it, just with the splatters on it, which I like, but I think we need more. I think by this stage we can do more, so let's do it. So I think that it is a very light grey, and it's very random. I wouldn't say try and copy your reference picture at all. Just bear in mind the overall look that we're going for, and of course we've got more in ours because our board was wider. We've got more in ours than there is on the reference picture, so we'll have to carry on further. Don't worry about shadows and shading and all that at this stage. We're just blocking in that with a crazy paving, and then after that we'll worry. Maybe today we'll get onto shading, maybe it'll be next time. But there is a lot of finishing off to do on here, a lot of coming back and looking, putting details in, and it's that makes our painting, really good. It makes it stand out from just a painting to being a nicely finished off, completed work that you can be really proud of. So let's get started. Won't put that too far away because I get the impression I might need it. So I'll start off with, as usual, my 1/4 inch angle shader. I'm not sure if that's the right brush for this or not, but we'll give it a try. I might just draw out some, let's see if I've got a pencil sharpener in here. Oh yes. It's like my little shopping cart that's got everything in. Mr. H bought it for me. That's his kind of sense of humour. I'll just sharpen this up and then we'll draw some in. That's a little bit better anyway. It's not the best pencil sharpener in the world, but so just with reference to this, but that's all, just a reference. So it's the kind of just odd shapes, really. Try not to get them looking like flowers or looking like anything. We just want random. I should be good at random. I'm quite a random sort of person. There is an awful lot of shading that needs to go in at the bottom of this wall. I'm not sure if it's shading actually so much as muck that it's accumulated throughout the years. Sorry?
As you can see, you also need to bear in mind the sort of perspective, because they're sort of going away from you. So
Yeah, they are.
They need to
So,
sort
yeah.
of be narrower at the top and
Yeah.
wider at the bottom to give that idea that they,
Yeah.
you know, rather than, you know, perfect hexagons or. But you know that I'm just saying it for the audience, which is me at the moment.
Yeah, you are the audience. Yeah. I'm just making this up as I go along, but I think it might be easier to make up with a pencil in my hand rather than a paintbrush. It's certainly easier to rectify. There are some little pieces in here as well, actually. And I'm going to put some big bits in as well. So really just have a jolly nice time creating shapes. So I think that's what they've done when they made this.
I mean, of course, people can leave it as tarmac or
you can leave it as this. Without a doubt, you can.
Or cobbles, make it cobbly.
Yeah.
Whatever takes your fancy.
Yeah, that's the thing to remember. It's actually your painting. I'm giving you some ideas here of how to achieve what we've got in the reference picture. But you can do whatever you want to do. Dog's taking to growling at somebody outside. He's all brave when he's the other side of the window.
It's certainly the easiest hard landscaping you'll ever do.
Yeah, it won't get you too puffed out. So we're looking for ideas for our next series. I think it was Sharon, said that she would like to do some landscapes. Sharon, it's kind of not my jam. It's not my thing. I don't really do that. I mean, I can. If everybody wants a landscape, I'll do a landscape, but it's not my favourite thing in the world to do. So anybody else got any ideas? We want something that we can actually get our teeth into, if possible. I mean, this has been I've really enjoyed this, and I hope you have too, as we've progressed, and our abilities have progressed as we've gone on. Okay, I think that's not too bad. I think that's going to give us kind of the look that we want. So let's just paint that in. I have got on my palettes for this abstract neutral grey, which, if you're into the grayscale, I'd say that's around a 5, which is midway between black and white. So you can easily, neutral grey is really mixed up from black and white. It's not one of these tricksy greys. It's purely black and white, so you can mix that yourself. I just happen to have a sachet of it, so why would I not use it? And the other thing that I have on my palette is white, titanium white. So let's just mix a bit of that, see where we get to, see what it looks like. We don't want it too near the background, we want it a little bit lighter, but I would say not massively lighter. I don't think we're going to know till we actually get it on and have a look. Yeah, I think that's about right. So that's what I'd recommend that you do, is just mix it till it looks all right, but you know, it dries darker and blah blah, you know, it's all a bit of a game really. But Find a grey that you're happy with. I mean, the joy of this is that you don't have to be absolutely exact with your painting, because I'm pretty sure they weren't exact with their edges on that either. We'll try and get them fairly straight. It's a good practice actually for drawing straight lines. Use the edge of your brush and follow the line. Actually, looking at how this is drying, and it is drying down, it's drying darker, and I think it's just a little bit too dark. Does stand out, but not much. So we'll make a lighter mix, and we'll make quite a bit of it because we need it for the whole thing. We'll make a lighter mix on the assumption, the correct assumption, that it will dry down, it will dry darker. So I'll just quickly go over these bits that we've already done. And I'm hoping the mix that I've just made is darker than the one that we already had. It looks very similar to me. Okay. So I think I've seen some people's versions of this. Susan Hole, certainly. What a trooper you are, Susan. She's posted hers at the end of the last tutorial, last video, and it's looking smashing. She's really doing well. Very well indeed. And Sharon's, I've seen Sharon's, although I know everybody else hasn't. I had a private viewing. And it's looking great as well, it really is. Oh well, I've made that concrete now. I think it should have been stone. But that's the beauty, isn't it? It's crazy paving. I think when we get all the shading and finishing touches on, I think you'll really see it come to life. And, we'll have made something we're proud of. I'm painting a puffin at the moment. Not right at this moment, quite obviously. But I have a puffin on the go, let's say. And his beak's driving me crazy. You would have thought a puffin's beak was just, orange and white stripes. No. It's got pink in it and yellow and all sorts of things. Well, this is okay. It's looking fine. As I say, by the time we get our muck and shadows and whatever else, this is literally still at the blocking out stage. Still blocking out the colours, putting the main colours in to come back later and do some work over. It's an important stage, very important. I've been spending some time recently doing animals' fur, and that really is all about the blocking in. You need to get the undercoat in with quite a darkish colour, and then keep coming back over it and back over it with lights. Which I enjoy, to be honest. You can still see quite a lot of my pastel pencil, but as I've explained to you before, don't worry about that. It rubs off with a plastic eraser. So I'm videoing this at Easter weekend. It's going out Easter weekend, so I hope all of you will be having a really nice holiday time. ours will be quite quiet, apart from the fact it's Mr. Handyman's birthday on Easter Sunday. So,
Close, but no cigar.
what? Close to what?
When's your birthday?
Sunday? No, Saturday. I saw somebody advertise something for Saturday, the 20th of April, and I thought, oh, they've got that date wrong. Because I thought, oh, it was Sunday. Oh, all right. Okay, so it's tomorrow. Or in your case, if you're watching this as it goes out, it's today. Huh? Oh, well, that's great. I would have got through to Sunday without wishing him happy birthday. Oh, my goodness. Can you believe that?
If you remember, we determined last week in the live that we were doing the live on the Saturday, which was my birthday.
Well, I just thought it was Sunday. I had it stuck in my head it was Sunday.
Well, it can be.
Well, it won't make much difference, frankly.
Just means I'll be younger for a day longer.
Won't make much difference to your present, if I'm brutally honest. Because it's kind of still in the shop. And I'm not going shopping today. So poor Mr. A, you're going to get what you've had for the last several years. I think this is looking quite nice, actually. What do you reckon, Mr. H?
I think it's looking very nice.
Worth doing.
Indeed. When you get to that little pot that's sitting on the road, in a second you realise that it hasn't got anything in it yet.
Yeah, I know that.
I know you know.
Some people have gone ahead without me and put it in. So you see, I'm just not necessary. I'm not necessary to this whole thing.
Well, that's good though, isn't it? That they've
It's
gained
perfect.
the confidence to
Actually, in
to
the Facebook group, I have a Facebook group that runs kind of alongside this called Miss Acrylic Paintalot group. And someone was asking for something the other day that was a variation of something we'd already done. And I realised then that people think that I'm teaching them how to paint that painting, which, yes, I am, but I'm also giving them tools that they can take away and use on other paintings. And it kind of worried me that people weren't seeing that I was giving them skills to use elsewhere. So I'm going to have to reiterate that, I think, on my group. That, you know, they're getting skills, not just how to paint that particular painting. What's going on here then? Bit of funniness. Okay, so nearly at the end of this anyway.
What we decided with the next one is that we would probably do it twice weekly.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's you know, now people are beginning to pick up a paintbrush and and get into it. That, a week's perhaps a bit too long.
Yeah, I think a week it's a long time when you're sitting with canvas this size hanging around and whatever. So I think I think you're right there, Mr. H. I think twice weekly. But I still want to do quite a large, relatively complicated one that will keep, we can get our teeth into, keep us busy for a while. Okay, so that's that done. I can't erase the pastel just yet because, well, actually that is dry, so I can erase it.
It won't be dry the way you've just been though, so it's probably better just to leave it and do it all in one, I would think.
It's amazing, there must be very little paint on there.
There must be very little paint.
Very frugal with my paint today. I'm just rubbing it off so we can see exactly what it looks like. I think it looks quite nice. bottom of these steps as well needs a bit of our love and care. So the next thing I'm going to approach is the leaves on our climbing plants. So there we are. I think that's quite successful. I'm glad that we did the speckly spotty business before that. Just make sure that this is opaque, that you're not seeing any of the speckles coming through, because that will kind of, you know, not be right. There's a word I'm looking for and I can't get it. But right, so let's move on to greens. I'll put my reference picture there, but actually in this instance it's not much help because we are fabricating this. We're making it up as we go along. I mean, it may be that you're quite happy with all your greens. I'm just not. I need more. I need more luxury in them. I need them to be more luxuriant. So I've got Hookah's green, and this is bright yellow green. I don't think we've been down this route. Ooh, hello. That's rather a lot of bright yellow green. I might have to tone that back a little with something. I've got some white out already. Okay, so let's get our little trowel out and mix some of this up. I think the dark green's probably too dark. I think the light green on its own, there may be places for it, but not very much. So we'll take a bit of the light green, a bit of the darker green, and mix them up and see what we get. A mid green, I would think. Maybe a little bit lighter than that. You have to bear in mind that it does dry darker. And if you want these to be quite bright and stand outish, which I do really, then, you know, go bold. Go bold or go home. I mean, you don't want it looking like Coco the Clown's house, but it's taking a lot of that bright green to mix it up. Okay, that's quite nice. So I'm just going to take a small part of that down to here and mix that up with a bit of white to give us a different tone, tint actually. Okay, so now we've got the Hookah's green, the mixture of the Hookah's green and the very light green, the light green and a tinted version of that. So we've got 4 different greens that we can feed off, which should, I would have thought, be enough for us. It's not. It's enough. Right, so let's get my old 1/4" angle shader, which is kind of giving up the ghost, but I have a new one. Let a good rinse out. Get rid of any paint that's on there. Get rid of any water on it. Okay, so because I'm left-handed, I'm going to start with this one, and then I won't be moving my hand over wet paint. Obviously, if you're right-handed, it probably makes sense to start the other way around. I'm going to start with this mid green here. Let's see where that gets us to. Just really going to sort of punch some holes in these flowers and give us some greenery. And get them to sort of, you know, like here, make a sort of feature out of it rather than just kind of end. because this, I'm going to have to put some green there now. The window ledge looked very stark. It doesn't now because it's got green on it, which was, I didn't really mean to come that far across, but that's fine. We'll do this one and then we'll go over it with different shades of the green, the greens that we've just mixed. I think if you add some greens to yours, you will see that it does make a huge difference to them. And punch some holes in your flowers with it as well, you know, because our flowers are quite dense. They can stand having some holes punched in them. It makes them look more realistic, I think. And even as I'm doing this, I'm liking it a lot better. You don't have to do this. You really don't have to. If you like your bushes the way that they are, that's perfectly fine. You know, as I say, we are moving slightly away from the reference picture. So if you would rather keep yours more accurately to the reference, that's fine. I just felt these were looking stark, so. For those of you that are advanced painters and whatever, yes, I go slowly. I do. I go very slowly, and that's because this is aimed at beginners, and I don't want to lose my beginners along the way by saying you just do this and you just do this. I want to show you, every single brushstroke that I make, you can see, and that way then you'll never get lost. You won't get lost in the painting. You'll know exactly what I'm doing and what my aims are at each stage. I mean, maybe as, you know, we all progress, maybe we can start going a bit faster and not explaining absolutely everything. But I think I'll still always have a beginner's video on the go because there's always beginners coming along. And it's those people really that I want to encourage. You folk that's already found your voice and you know what you're doing, well, we'll get there. We will get there. Okay, so I think that looks a bit better. I'm now going to go over that, not over each one, but just add a little bit of that very bright green. I mean, we still want to be able to see things behind it, like the shutter, so we don't want to block it off completely. I think this bright green might look very, very bright, so let's be quite cautious with it. I think we're okay. It's sort of soaking into the background. Might need some more actually. I've only used most of it to mix up the mid colour. Hope I don't get another great big splodge of it. This is obviously a splodgy thing. Sort of been across the top here and just kind of where you think the light might land on it really, which is, it's hard to tell on this one. There aren't really that many shadows, but we'll go with the sun coming from the top because that's a fair bet to assume that it's above you, and we'll just try and catch some of the tops of these. I think that looks a lot better already. What do you think, Mr. H?
I think it does. Because it's very bright sun.
Yeah.
And in this instance, it doesn't matter whether it's Tuscan sun or Spanish sun, because it's actually the same sun, really.
Well, it is really. If you haven't got a very bright green like I'm using, don't worry. Just add if you've got a lemon yellow, that's a very acidy colour, obviously lemon, and that will brighten up your green like this. It'll brighten it up more than if you put white in it. If you add some acid yellow, lemon yellow, even. So, okay. So you can see what I'm doing. You can see that I don't think you need to see me do each and every single bougainvillea, do you? I'm sure you're capable of carrying on this sort of procedure over this one, and this one. You don't need to watch me do that. I'm sure you don't. I trust you. And if you can do that on your own, then I can progress to something else, a bit more exciting to watch, perhaps. This is a bit on the dull side. Go down there and give that some life.
You could continue to do that if you wanted, and I could speed it up at this point. It's up to you, really.
Yeah, let's do that.
It depends how.
Let's do that, and then we stick with our ethos of never missing a paintbrush stroke. I think that looks considerably better, don't you?
Yes, it looks more alive.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so I'm going to carry on at normal speed, actually, because I don't work like that. So we'll just video that, but when you watch it, this next section of me greening up these will be fast. YouTube does have a facility that you can go on and slow down the speed of the tape that you're watching, the video you're watching. So if you really want to watch me do it, it's just too fast and frantic, go there, slow it down, and it'll come back to normal speed for you. But I'll see you when I've greened up all my bougainvillea. Right, so as you can see, I've given these bougainvillea quite a lot of leaves. With this one, I've ended up with something that I particularly like. It's bright green. I hope it remains that way when it's dry, although it's getting pretty dry now. And it's full of life. It just looks like spring. It's absolutely full of life. But I have, however, lost the yellow flowers. They've gone into the all this leafage bit. So we'll come back at some stage before you see it again and reinstate those bright yellow flowers. I've also put this little grassy, spiky thing, whatever it is, in, which I noticed a lot of you had done that. I also noticed that the ones that I've seen, people have put this in already. Now I'm going to show you a technique that is not, it's not going to give you a bush that's that. It's going to be my interpretation of it. But it's quite a nice technique for doing sort of low shrubs and that sort of thing. And I think that you might find it useful going forward to have this little trick in your armoury. So wet the brush, take some white, which I know is a bit of a shocker. You're going over the green and white, but it'll be fine. For this, you really need a filbert brush, and you need not too much paint on it. And then we just literally start with the filbert brush with this sort of motion. And you get a very nice finish. Don't hold it like a pen. Hold it back on the brush a little bit. And follow around where you think the curves would be. Leave out bits if you think there would, be a hole in your bush. Perish that thought. But around all the edges would have some. As I say, try to hold it quite far back on your brush, and you're just dabbing very lightly, because of course the white's going to dry back, and it will sort of sink into this, and you'll end up with quite a nice brush that looks like it's got a lot of detail on it, but it's been very simply achieved like this. I'm going to have to turn it round. So you can see where this has dried, the effect that you get, and it's really very pleasing, I think. Too much water on there. You need it quite dry, otherwise it goes like this bit here, which is alright. I'll go over it again and dab some of that off. And this takes a little while. It's a good effect for trees as well. It's just a good little tip to know, really. I know that the bush in ours has got stems and stalks and whatever in it. I'm not really keen on that look, if I'm honest. So I'm going to paint my own in a version that I like, because it is, after all, my painting. And your painting is your painting. You can do this to make sort of shrubs and things in a garden. You'll put your green down first and then select the colour that you want your shrubs to be and do this over the green. Don't do yellow straight over green. It won't show up. So if you want to do a yellow flower bush, make sure that you do the white first and then come back over it with your yellow. So I think we're a bit there. If it really dries back far too much, we can go over it again. But I think that'll be fine. I might put a token sort of stem in it because it is, the reference really has got a very defined stem. So I'll just use a bit of burnt sienna.
Just for those that may not know what exactly is a filbert.
A filbert is a brush that. Where's my big filbert? Here we are. It's a brush that is cut away at the corners, so it's a rounded brush, and it gives you lovely marks. Really round and soft marks. Unlike the brights or the flats, which are square cut. Now with the square cut, you've got corners that you can use, and you've got the whole flat. With this, you can get into things with that soft corner. It's a good blending brush as well, actually. They're useful brushes, really useful brushes to have in your brush department of your studio. So I'm just going to put a little bit of burnt sienna right there. No, it's raw sienna. Burnt sienna. Dear me, I'm losing my plot today. And just with a little nod to this, I'm just going to put in. I'm using a very thin liner brush. I've introduced water into my paint. It's going to take a little bit of that white and add that into it. I think that will be quite nice for our stems. I've shown you how to load this liner brush before, so you should be okay with that. And I'm just going to put some, that's reading as pink, actually. So I'll just add some more brown into it. And roll most of that off, that's too much for us. That's better, I think. We'll just add some little bits into here that you might catch a glimpse of. It's a bit like doing a tree, really. That's probably sufficient. I'm just now I'm just going to take a little bit of this white down here, add a little bit of water to it, roll my brush. I still have brown on my brush, so it's coming out a brownie. I've got too much water on it. It's coming out a brownie sort of colour, which is fine, that's good. And we'll just go up these and give them just a little bit of a shade. Just look a bit stark like that. Just on one edge, select whichever edge you fancy, and do that with your liner brush. And you just got a little bit of shadow and shade on there, and I think it looks a bit better. So that's that bush done. When you look at this, there is another set of greenery here that belongs to something we can't see, but I suspect it's in a plant pot about here. So we need to put that. We don't need to, leave it if we want, but I'm going to put that in because it'll just bring a bit more interest to this front. I'm quite happy actually with what we've achieved today. I hope you are too. It's really enlivened this picture, I think. and I hope you're happy with the way yours is looking too at the moment. So I've got this brown and white mixture, and I'll just add some raw sienna to it. We'll get a planty potty type colour going. I don't need my little liner brush anymore at the moment. It's not a good idea to leave your liner brushes sitting in a pot of water. I know you see me do it all the time, but it's not good. They're very delicate little brushes and you'll wreck them. The ends will just splay out and then you'll never get a good line with them. So it's kind of do as I say, not as I do. So what am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm making a plant pot. So I'm just going to mix some of this sienna through the sienna that we already had, just to give us a bit of a plant pot kind of colour going on. That's fine, I would say, maybe a little bit more of that. Lovely. Perfect. So it's up to us really what we make of this plant pot down the bottom, because it's unseen in our reference. I'm going to take it down to there, that sort of way, over there. I think will be fine. It'll be big enough for anything that's growing here. It's nearly out of our picture, which is good. You know, you want interest. You don't just want something in the middle. That's fine. I don't think we need to put any strapping or anything around it like we did with these. I don't think it's actually on the wall. I think it's on the ground, and I think it's much closer to this one. But I've just stretched it out a little bit just to give us a bit of interest right to the edge. I'm just going to take a lighter mix of that colour that we had and brush it on from that side. See the light's coming from that side. So we've got a little bit of shading on it. So there we are. Wipe that off, take the colour that I had initially. I've eaten a bit too much of it. Put altogether too much paint on my brush. But never mind. I'll get there in the end. Okay, let's just wipe some of this off. Remove that. Like that. Okay, so that's I think our last little plant pot actually, when we're doing the rounds of tidying up, unless we come across any, I'm not sure. So we've got the greens out, so let's do the greens in there. And I'm just going to use a round brush. This is quite a large round brush, it's a number 6. You can see it's bigger than the ones we normally use. In fact, it's not a brush I normally use at all as a round. I'll put some, it's quite a bright green this, but it'll still have a background of a darker colour in there. So we don't know whether it goes over the plant pot or what it does, but ours is going over a little bit. Not massively, but a little bit. And then it just seems to sort of, not much to it really. But it's there, that's interest. And paint's beginning to dry up on me. And that's probably big enough for the pot that it's in. Give that a couple of minutes to dry and we'll go back in with a little bit of brighter colour. So the other thing that is to address is the white or the very light purple on here. I'm going to do it in, it's not quite dry yet. I'm going to do it in white because it will sink back into the purple anyway. And there's very little of it, it's just little highlights. So I'm just going to see if I can get some white up there that hasn't been, well, it has been adulterated slightly with the sienna, but I think it'll be fine. And it just really has got little sort of drops of highlight leaves on it. Let's just give it a bit of that treatment that we gave the other bush. Bring it to life a little bit. You see when this dies back there, it's quite, well, it's very effective actually. Okay, so that's that dealt with. So we're cracking on. Now then, the next thing, probably stopping our progress here, is this stone with the brick on top of it. So that's dry now. Let's do that, and then that's something less to think about. Right, so this is dried now. I'm going to go in with quite a bright green. If you have a look on the reference, it is quite bright. I don't know if I dare go in quite that bright though. I'll mix it with a bit of this mid colour. And it is literally just dotting it on. Nothing complicated about it. You can see as the paint leaves your brush, obviously the markings aren't so dark, and that really sort of works to our favour in something like this. We've got the first marks that we put on when the brush was loaded, and then down here the brush is almost empty of paint, and so we get that effect, which is very nice. Talking of effects which aren't exactly perfect, this one has dried too white for my liking. I'm not either altogether sure I like those twigs in it, but I think what we'll do is we'll go back over it in a mid-green, now that it's got almost a white background. And some of these branches will be left showing, but it may work to our favour in as much as they look slightly more convincing when they've got some more greenery on them. So the greenery, what greenery shall I choose? It is quite a dark green, so there's still some life left in that. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of that with that. I think the problem was really that my bush wasn't dark enough at the beginning. It needed to be a lot darker. So we'll just go back over it with this tapping technique with the filbert. Just gently, very gently, just catching the very tip of your brush. And go over well, I don't know, you might have more convincing branches than I have, but I'm going to go straight over them. They'll show through, but I think they might look a little bit better than they do now. So just tapping, just touching the canvas very, very gently. I've actually got some texture on here from the white that I put on, which is making it difficult because grabbing the paint. I don't want to have lines of these either. You see there, I've got some lines. I don't really want that, so I'll go back in and break them up a little bit. And here I'm kind of running out of paint on my brush, but it's still quite a nice effect. I've got some on the other side of my brush, so turn it over and off we go again. I think that looks a whole lot better. We've sort of buried the stems, so they look more convincing. Yeah, I think that's alright. Let's get them straight. Look better?
Looking nice.
Is it looking? Yeah, it's looking better. That's
Bushy McBush face.
Looks like Bushy McBush face, which is what we were aiming for. So there we are. That's kind of, we've redeemed ourselves a little bit on that, I think. So what we were going to do was this brick, which they probably keep the spare house key under, do you think? Possibly. And it's a colour similar to the cement that we put in between our stones, which actually now it's dried, has dried darker. In an ideal world, I would have liked that lighter, but I think it's okay. I'm not going to go back over that. It's up to you. If you want yours lighter, then up to you, as I keep saying, it really is. Where's my 1/4 inch angle shader? Let me put a right array of brushes in here. You might have noticed when I was doing this plant, although it was actually double time, so you might not have noticed anything, but I was using my sword brush that I have spoken to you before about it, either on here or on the Miss Acrylic Paintalot group. It's shaped like that, so it could be mistaken for an angle shader, but it's more curved, and it gives you, if you use it like that, it gives you really nice. I tried to get these thicker because they're thicker than blades of grass, but you can get lovely blades of grass with it, and you can get nice leaves if you just put the point down and then spread it out. You get really nice leaves. It's a handy little brush. It's not one you use every day, so don't rush out and buy it unless you're really doing a lot of grasses and stuff. It's good for feathers, for a handy little brush, but probably not one of the top ones to rush out and buy. Right. Yeah, I'm pleased with that now. That looks alright. That looks alright. Is that bright enough? Do you think? What does it look like on the camera? Yeah. Maybe it could stand a little bit brighter. Let's just go for it. We need something to balance up this anyway. So we'll just add a little bit. Don't go bonkers. Only on the top. Yeah, that's fine. That's giving that a bit of life. Right, so onto the stone, chaps. We're onto the stone. Let's just draw it in. It goes about here-ish, I think. And it sits down onto the path. It's at an angle with the path, unsurprisingly. And it's absolutely head on, this photograph. There's no perspective, there's no sides to this. It is straight up and down. So that's kind of the top, the edge of it, and then it just comes up and it comes to that sort of thing. You can just see a little side of that. So let's have a go. We need a grey with a lot of white in it. So let's hope that our paints are still alive. There's still some grey under there that hasn't skinned over yet. As for the white, not enough for what we need, I don't think. It's funny, when I first opened this big bag, giant bag of 500ml bag, titanium white. I thought I'll never get to the end of that. You know, it's massive. But I'll tell you, there's not as much in it as there used to be. Oh, that's fine.
You did buy a nice pot of mixing white as well.
I did buy a nice pot of mixing white yesterday. It arrived, and I bought Winsor and Newton. They're one of the few people that actually make mixing white. It is comparable to Golden's zinc white in as much as it's a white that's transparent. And as I was saying to you, I've been doing quite a lot of fur and feathers and stuff. And it's ever so good with that. We'll come on to that at some stage, where and how you would use mixing white as opposed to titanium white, which is opaque. So let's just mix our colour up. If you have any questions at all about what I'm burbling on about, leave them in the comments below, or pop over to the Miss Acrylic Paintalot's Facebook group, and I'll do my very best to answer you. If you have any ideas what you'd like to do next, please let me know. I'll really try my hardest to help.
The links for the Facebook groups are underneath the video.
All right, that's good to know. So you can find me quite easily by just looking at the links below. There is also a link on my YouTube channel in case you feel it within your heart to donate to me. My friend says I've become a modern day beggar. Yeah, I have. And I don't like it. I don't like asking you for money. It feels wrong somehow. But all the things that I use, the paints, the brushes, canvases, everything, I buy at the same price as you buy them. I don't have any sponsors or anybody rushing to give me anything to, paint-wise. So if you can find it in you to donate, anything at all, a pound would be good. Anything that you can, really, please. But if you can't afford it, do not feel guilty in any way. I'm just asking if you can afford it. It would be lovely, but that's fine,
It is exclusively for use, to keep the lives going.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's so many Facebook groups on the go at the minute, about painting this, painting that, and I don't want to go down that route where it's a paid-for membership and you pay every month. In fact, I'm not going down that path. I'm just absolutely not. I don't like it particularly. I'd rather keep it free, and then people that actually really need help can get it free. But as I say, it comes at a cost to me. Right. So I've blocked that in light grey that we have that kind of matches this concrete. And I'm now just going to take a bit of darker grey, mix it into that. We'll actually mix that into the darker grey. We'll just give this a little bit of texture. It's got a sort of a bit of a line across the top there where it goes in. It's just got little bits of texture in it. Break it up a little bit. I think I'm going to have to go around the edges because it looks a bit lost. That's that. We'll just grab a teeny bit of white. Still got quite a lot of grey actually on the brush, but a bit of white. And sort of whitish section there. Don't forget this will dye back. Dry back, not dye back. And then the top is a much lighter affair altogether. And as I say, you can just see that the top.
Your palette can slightly because you've wandered.
I wandered.
You've wandered off the bottom.
thinking. So there we are, that's our stone. He's got a really nice dark shadow under him, but so he's looking like nothing pretty much at the moment. But we'll come back and we'll do all the shadows. We'll start from the right hand side and we will really attack the shadows, and that will bring everything together. So I just need to get some raw sienna, yellow ochre raw sienna it is, just for the brick that's on the top. A little bit of water to that. I could do this with a the quarter inch shader, but I've actually got this in my hand, so that'll be fine. So I'll just draw the brick that's on top. And you can actually just see a little bit up the side, which is a slightly lighter tint of the same colour, same hue. So put that in a little bit, just comes down there. Very difficult to see, so if you feel like not putting it in, that's fine. Okay, so that's just a little detail. I think it's actually quite light on the top as well. By now you should be getting used to holding and using, loading your tiny little brushes. I use them quite a lot. I know I do. I know a lot of artists that don't use them at all. I like them. I love the control I have. Possibly because I like drawing, and it does feel more like you're drawing when you've got this very fine brush in your hands. Maybe you don't like them at all, you can't get on with them, but keep practicing because they're very useful. It's a useful skill to have. Okay, so I think let's have a look at what we've achieved and what I'm going to do. Before we come back to this, I'm going to go back over this and put some bright yellow flowers in, so the next time you see this, it'll have bright yellow flowers in. I might just touch that in again with the white. I'm happy with that. That looks okay. I'm just looking on the camera now because you get a slightly different perspective. This stone will be fine when it's got the shade underneath it and whatever. The door's looking good. Well, I was looking at these white parts before I'd started this video, and I thought that they needed something on them. I don't think they do. I think they're fine at the top. I think it's just the bottom, this general muck that's around. I'm really sorry if this is your house, describing it as mucky. It's just everyday traffic, sort of muck. Actually, there's some sort of plantage there, but never mind, we'll ignore that. So when we come back, I really do think it's kind of the end. I think we're just doing the tarting and messing around and getting it finished. So I hope you've got something out of today's tutorial. I certainly think it's looking brighter, more vibrant. I'm happier with it now. It looks pleasant to me. So I'll see you whenever we put the next video out. We may decide to give you a treat and put it out in a week. Okay. Thanks very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
Me and the boys were sitting around drinking. We was talking about things that we was thinking. When all of a sudden, what comes out of Bill's mouth? Said I'm getting old and fat and slow, and I don't recover like I did before from nights of rabble, rousing and too much fun. Well, I looked around and we all agreed, and I had a drink and I ordered 3, and I staggered back to do it all again. And we made an oath on a rum and coke with the best intention. I'm sure you know that we would stop this living in excess. We're gonna have one more party, one more special occasion. Do it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, holidays and weekends. We can have one more party. There's more hell we should be raising. One more party now, one more party tonight.